in this video, we're looking at form against USDT. Now, I don't normally obviously report on this coin, this project, and this type of time frame, because in reality, this type of time frame is very small and doesn't provide much background in terms of historical data. So we're still going to look at it, still going to trade it based on a pattern that I identified recently. And basically what that is a B wave to the downside. I believe that this coin will go to at least that dotted green line at $1.47 from current levels. All right, when I took this trade a few hours ago, I saw a very interesting setup, right, for this pattern. You can see where I've got the little red line there, right there, at about $1.95, and you can see that the entry was triggered at about $1.88. And I'll go over this in a sec, but let's just begin with what we've seen from the beginning, right? So this coin is like a couple of days old, whatever, right? So whatever, it opened up higher, it then smashed back down, or whatever, right? Well, we saw a move up really quick, came back down, and then you have this this giant like a spinning top type candle, right? Or whatever, shooting star, whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't matter. The point is that it came back down in what appears to be a fast 5-wave move. It bounced up quickly for like what appears to be like maybe a wave A, and then we produced a 5-wave move down. So the only thing that there's two sort of scenarios here, right? It could have been like a zigzag wave A to begin with, right? But then you'd have to expect an A and a B pattern, right? No, sorry, a B and a C pattern, right? And I thought, so that means this is going to move higher, right? Because you'd have like an A, a B, a C, and then what? Is this a mini D here, beginning of move up? Or was this a bounce for wave A of an ongoing zigzag to the downside? So that's why I put the little, well, actually this little A here is meant to represent the first smackdown, which would go right somewhere in there. And then you had a bounce for, I assume, would be wave A of that internal wave B, which at this point, it'd be too small to try and basically classify that kind of move, because it's a very early pattern, but we've seen a whole bunch of this stuff going on. So obviously we're starting to drop now here. But the point is that you had a bounce and you had a 5-wave move, which to me says, okay, this might not be part of that move down. Doesn't make much sense. So that A is the end of the A became the beginning of the B wave, right? So that kind of became like resistance, right? And I thought that's interesting because price maintained itself with, underneath that level, which is completely the point, right? You had a pullback. So you had the first part of a zigzag, you had a wave A B, right? Because this could have seemed like a C wave, I suppose, to a degree, could have seemed like one, right? But the internal structure here, it's a bit iffy. I'm a bit iffy on it being a C wave. It's very weak. It's this for a wave 3, it doesn't look quite right. Its internal structure is a bit dodgy. To me, it seems like a B wave expanded zigzag, right? And then you had the C wave, and the kicker is within this small degree, you had a zigzag and a small 5-wave move that never made a new high. So Elliottians might call this a truncation, but there's no such thing as truncation when it comes to AriasWave. It just means that you're not understanding what you're looking at properly, right? Truncation is BS. It doesn't exist. So it's basically like a way of saying, oh, my analysis sucks, but I don't want to say that, so I'm just going to say this is a truncation, right? So this is actually a very important clue. So on this particular Binance chart, you can't really see it properly because it's actually a bit different than the Bybit chart, which is what I like to trade on. But because this has got a complete, since the beginning of when the launch, it's got the pattern, I use this chart, but I identify key differences in the Bybit chart. So this is actually a zigzag here. This new high is only on Binance, not on Bybit. So really this is a D and an E, right? And it never made a new high. So if you get price to break below that in the Bybit chart, it did here. Binance a bit inaccurate for some reason. Yeah, you basically get triggered into the move. Now I did that, and it was really wild to see price do this. That was crazy. This was crazy. This had me questioning the pattern a little bit, but then I just maintained. I went and did some. I went and did something different, right? Went and had a burrito, got a haircut, and then we see this start to happen, and it's very interesting, right? Another low, a lower low, a lower high, but it's interesting how it holds up, right? It can't go above this red line up here because that's the beginning of the zigzag. It can't go above that E, the end of it, because it was already confirmed to be finished. So if this is to be correct, that's a tight stop, and you've got a nice risk reward there, right? It's a pretty decent risk reward, right? And the 5-minute chart is as high as I can go on this thing because it has not been alive very long. But to me, that to me confirms discount, because that particular D and E pattern wouldn't be there if that was really like a B, a C, and a D was coming, right? Because that is not part of a correction. It's actually the inverse of a larger correction. So that to me is completely interesting, and that's caused me to go short. And it's a pretty decent profit, right? Like, considering, let's just say from entry point there, you're going down to the green line. That's 20% move. That's pretty decent. 20% decline. You go a little bit lower, it's 25% decline if you want to measure, sort of the same distance. Sorry, the same distance as this A wave here, right? That's completely cool. I like that. I like that type of setup because it gives me a small risk to a large reward, right? I mean, you look at that and you're basically looking at, let's have a look. That point right there, even to the green line, which is a minimum, it's a 5 to 5.78 risk reward ratio. If you go the full, 25% or whatever, it's 6.58. So I just sort of make a quick video about this and how you can identify these patterns using AriasWave. And it's just way better than AriasWave. And you can actually find these little beautiful little Easter eggs of these little waves in here, and then trade them accordingly, because that's how the markets operate.